What's up, everybody? Anthony Cosenza with the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast and CincyJungle.com coming at you. I'm on the road. I'm at a different venue than I normally am, as you can see kind of from the background here, but coming at you to talk about the week 2 loss, a very, very odd game, to say the very least, a frustrating game, a game of missed opportunities. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you have to be sitting there wondering how the heck you lost that game. Rookie quarterback comes into the game, doesn't play all that well, made a couple of plays when it mattered most, did Justin Fields. But, for the most part, there were opportunities to really grab this game and run away with it, and they did not take advantage of it. So very, very frustrating. The Bengals drop one on the road at Chicago, 20-17. A lot of mistakes. I don't know if you want to call it a hangover from the 5 quarters of play last week. I mentioned that on my game preview on CincyJungle.com, and a couple people kind of poo-pooed the notion, I guess, that playing an extra quarter may have an effect on this team. We've heard players talk about the short week going into Thursday night games. We've heard players talk about all kinds of different things. Hey, by the way, Matthew from France. Hi from France, Matthew. Good to see you, buddy. Look, there were a lot of things and a lot of blame to go around. I know the defense, Trey Hendrickson misses the tackle early, but he was in on some plays early on too. Right? He missed the tackle on Fields late rather, but he had some plays earlier in the game. You had Sam Hubbard in there, a couple of inexplicable penalties, some real interesting and questionable refereeing in this game. Some missed calls. A late hit on Joe Burrow wasn't called. They got it right a play later. There was another call that could have been made on him, a pass interference call on T. Higgins that should have been called. I mean, basically everybody's saying that. There was a catch that was ruled a catch for the Bears that a lot of people, including Dean Blandino of Fox Sports, said that shouldn't be a catch. The bottom line is there was a fumble by Fields late in the game. Logan Wilson, who had the late interception to make this game interesting, missed not only the scoop and score, but just to get the ball and pick it up and fall on the ground, missed that opportunity. And of course, you got to put blame on the quarterback with his 3 interceptions. A very, very weird sequence of events for Joe Burrow, wherein 3 straight passes that were intercepted, and then the next 2 in a row, he throws 2 touchdowns. It's like, what? So very, very odd game. A lot of issues on the offensive line still showing up. A lot of refereeing issues, and the Bengals stumbling over their own feet, and they lose week 2 in Chicago, 20-17. Let's share this. This is the box score courtesy of ESPN. I like to share this kind of as a tale of the tape, if you will, here. So you look here. Oh, there we go. First downs, Bengals really on the short end of that one, 14-16. This was just a boring game until the fourth quarter. I mean, you look at this too. I mean, the defense has a lot of blame. I tweeted this out. The defense has a lot of blame in terms of not making those critical plays. There was another third and 16, third and 19. Awuzie misses a tackle that lets a receiver go by, and he had a couple of pass breakups late, but I mean, there's just a lot of different things, a lot of different opportunities where you just make some of those plays and you've got yourself a win. And that's what's really frustrating here. You see the passing first downs, 10-7. Bears really went into a shell when Andy Dalton left the game with an injury, really went into a shell and went very conservative and relied on Montgomery, and Montgomery responded. He had a lot of tough runs. The Bengals kind of tried to corral him, and he had a lot of tough runs, but didn't still made plays when it counted, particularly at the end of the game when the Bengals needed a critical stop. Had that basically game clinching first down there. Bengals 6 of 12, 50% on third down. Bears not, they were slightly worse, 6 of 15. Both teams own 0 for 1 on fourth down. Total plays there. I mean, the Bears kind of in the first half were hogging the football, 61-54 total plays. Total yards, just not enough yards for either team. You kind of maybe expect that from the Bears with a rookie quarterback coming in off the bench. 248-206 was the total yards. 11 to 10 drives, 4.6 yards per play to 3.4 yards per play. Just an ugly offensive showing by both teams. 19 of 30. I mean, they credit the Bengals with 4 sacks, some of which were coming up the middle again. There seemed to be some miscommunication on the middle in terms of picking up blitzers, picking up pressure. Jonah Williams had an issue early where he kind of had Quinn on the end there, and then Quinn moved inside and got off of Williams and got a sack of Burrow. So Bengals got 3 sacks of their own, though. I mean, I think they've got 6 in the first 2 games, so they're getting after the quarterback. They're getting back there. They're creating plays. And I know, like I was saying, the defense had some issues where they did not come up in these clutch situations. Hendrickson's got to wrap up and make that tackle on Fields. Wilson's got to scoop up that fumble. There's a couple of tackles by defensive backs on third downs that they did not make. But when you really look at it, the defense on the road really only gave up 13 points. 7 of those points came on a Joe Burrow pick 6. So when you look at it kind of that way, maybe the defense didn't play as poorly or you don't want to put so much blame on that. Offense had 4 turnovers. I mean, quarterback throws 3 picks. T. Higgins fumbles the ball away. Just boom, 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 boom in the second half. Turnover. And it just snowballed on him. And it was a small miracle that this game was only by 3 points there, really, when you look at the turnover differential. So, and in the postgame, we'll talk a little bit about this in the postgame press conference. Zach Taylor talked about opportunities, lack of turnovers by the defense, but also, there's a lot of talk of the lack of a downfield passing game, the lack of being aggressive on offense. When you saw what the Rams were doing on Sunday night against them, and I know the Rams are have a superior offensive line, but the Bengals did not go deep very often. They hit Chase deep once. Burrow missed a throw to Chase deep down the left sideline, but the Bengals just were very conservative on offense, and they were committed to the run. Joe Mixon had a couple of nice plays and a couple of nice runs, but really, I mean, there was a lot of, 3rd and 4. I was telling some people that I was watching the game with that I kind of feel like on at least a couple of occasions, if you give the ball to Joe Mixon twice in a 3 series down, in a single series of 3 downs, a couple of those have to be moving the sticks. Getting 3 yards on first down and another 2 or 3 yards on second down or what have you. Yeah, I mean, it's better than a lot of times last year when you saw Joe Burrow getting these 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s, where they weren't able to run the ball at all. But, I mean, you got to be able at some point, whether it's on the offensive line, whether that's on Mixon or what have you got to be able to move the ball on the ground and, after 2 runs, at times be able to net 10 plus yards. And, that just wasn't really a common theme this week, unfortunately, with Joe Mixon on the ground. You see here, the penalties were just maddening by teams. Bengals still very lowly penalized. They had some penalties early. They only had 3 for, I think, 12 or 14 yards last week. And then they've got 4 here. One was the offensive pass interference that netted a lot of yardage and whatnot, but 4 penalties for the Bengals there, 8 for the Bears. And then you see the big deal there, 4 turnovers to 1, and then a little bit of time of possession in favor of the Bears there. So, the defensive special teams touchdowns, you see, Bears had the pick 6. That was a biggie. And for some reason, Joe Burrow just, he said in the post-game press conference that he was just trying to force some things, maybe get some things going in the second half, and, didn't see Roquan Smith on that pick 6 there. Really threw the one to Higgins on the sideline there. He wasn't even open. And it's not like it was a good throw that was on the sideline where really only Higgins had an opportunity at a contested catch. It was just right there with the defender there. So, I don't know. I don't know what you want to make of that. A lot of people are worried about Joe Burrow and what they saw in this game. Obviously, the hits, the sacks, all that stuff is not good. 9 sacks through 2 games already. We kind of thought we had a lot of this stuff remedied. What seems to be occurring more this year as opposed to last year, I guess if you want to call it progress on this front, last year it wasn't extra blitzers so often that were coming in and hitting Joe Burrow. It was basically the offensive line losing one-on-ones, it would have appeared. This year, it seems that teams are bringing in extra blitzers, and the Bengals are just not communicating on the offensive line, picking up the proper assignments, and these free blitzers are coming in and getting hits and or sacks on Joe Burrow. So that seems to be kind of a little bit of a difference. If you want to call that a sense of progress on the offensive line, I guess you could do that. But that seems to be a little bit of what I have noticed from year to year going here. But I mean, again, 9 sacks in 2 games. That's not a good statistic for Joe Burrow, who is coming off of the knee injury there. Here's a couple. Josh Kirkendall, who used to head us up over at cincyjungle.com. Always a fun Twitter follow here. Bengals defense held the Bears to 206 yards, quickly scanning Pro Football Reference. So let me know if I missed one. But this is the lowest total allowed by the defense since Week 15 versus the Browns in 2014. The 107 yards allowed in the Johnny Manziel game. If you remember that, Dunlap and Burfict and all kinds of players teed off on Johnny Manziel there. So, that's we'd have to double check that, but Josh is a pretty reliable source, and I assume that he's correct on this, or obviously that was one of the most recent. So you're going back 7 years, basically, so six and a half years since the Bengals had a defensive performance like this in terms of yards allowed, et cetera. So that was an interesting statistic that he put out there. Then you've got some folks, Charlie Goldsmith of the Cincinnati Enquirer and Ben Baby will show you these. Goldsmith on Twitter here. The theme of the press conferences between Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow, and Jamar Chase. How much of the Bengals' lack of explosive plays a result of the Bears' standout defensive line, or was the Bengals' offense proactively conservative? Hard to know exactly, and we didn't get definitive answers. And here's a sort of answer from Jamar Chase, and this is from Ben Baby of ESPN.com here. Jamar Chase, who had a big touchdown at the end of the game, did have a drop and or an issue where the cornerback was in there breaking the pass away, but he had the big play and he was open on another one that Burrow missed on. But Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase, quote, "We waited until the last minute to take shots." Said communication has to be better offensively. I assume that means not only between quarterback and receivers, but also on the offensive line to pick up some of those assignments, blitzes, etc. going forward. So, there's a lot of blame to be passed around. Like I said, there's a lot of blame to be passed around. And really the shame of this is that the Bengals, I mean, you look at the score and you go, okay, well, obviously that's not really indicative of how close this game was for the most part. The Bengals made some plays late, and that was, that's kind of, they made it close, right? I mean, at the end with the turnover from Wilson and just kind of the quick strikes, that really wasn't the case. But when you look at these moments where they just let these big plays go right through their hands, figuratively or literally, there's just not, I don't know. It's pretty difficult to swallow this one, especially after what happened last week. Pretty difficult to swallow this one. Here are a couple of individual stats here, again, courtesy of ESPN.com. I'll bring this up so everybody can see this here. 19 of 30, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for Joe Burrow. I would think, I'd have to go back and look, but I would think this is probably his worst rating that he has had, 66.2. And then, of course, the 4 sacks there. Joe Mixon, 20 carries, 69 yards, pretty pedestrian game. Really, the long carry of the day is 10 yards. And I know you want to be methodical. I know you want to ground and pound with Joe Mixon, but 3.5 yards a carry, that's just not, I mean, again, it's not just him, but it's that's my why the receiving here. Look at the receivers, 7 for 73, 6 for 60. 7 for 73 is Tyler Boyd, 6 for 60. T. Higgins did have the fumble, but it also had a touchdown. Jamar Chase, 2 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown. 2 straight weeks with 2 big plays. The 42-yarder this week, the 50-yarder last week. Only 2 catches on 4 targets, though, one of which was essentially a drop. Evans had a good catch, but unfortunately came up short on a 3rd down, 1 catch, 14 yards. Uzama, 2 catches, 4 yards. Mixon just 1 catch for 2. So, again, a lot of different issues there. You look at the defense. Hubbard had a half sack. Hendrickson had 1.5, but couldn't make that critical tackle at the end there.